Welcome to Means of Grace, a podcast produced by the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So good to see you all this afternoon. I'm glad you came out to join us in our dinner church this afternoon. And we're going to open our service singing. And congregation, y'all help me sing. Amen. Okay? Amen.
It's been said that most innovation isn't creating something altogether new, but rather combining two things that have existed for some time, but had yet to be combined. I suppose dinner church is kind of like that. Methodist churches have long been known for their potlucks. I remember my first potluck at Boone United Methodist. I was new to Methodism and new to the South. The food was amazing, but I was a bit confused by all the things Southerners put in their Jell-O. Anyways, dinner church is simply forming a church around the dinner table. Some dinner churches are small and meet in homes and in restaurants. Some are larger, meet in public places or church fellowship halls. The order of the service varies greatly. Some have the meal and transition into a time of music, short message, and prayer. Others are more conversational, with the leaders asking questions while folks eat. What they all have in common is they are seeking to become church with people who otherwise are not connected with the church. One of the perks of my job is getting to eat my way across the conference, visiting new dinner churches. A few weeks ago, I had heard about a dinner church that had started up in December in Lenoir. I decided to visit and see it for myself. As I turned off of Highway 321, I began to meander down a windy road. As I pulled up to the New Covenant Dinner Church, a young person rode his ATV around a dirt track across the street. I walked into the kitchen to find George and his friend loading up a cart to carry over to the sanctuary.
I guess you want this.
What's in there, girl?
Potatoes.
Potatoes.
I mean green beans, what's in there?
Rice.
Okay.
You got to take this pan?
Huh?
You got to take that pan?
They'll probably come back and get what we can't take. But I guess that's rice right there.
Then Margaret and her sister, Aunt, as she is known in the church,
Right here.
walked back into the kitchen. These two sisters are the driving force
We're
behind the
glad
dinner.
to have you here with us, too.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
What's in here?
Well, it's down to the lowest, the rice. Well, you've already taken the majority over there.
What is our menu for today?
We're having chicken pie, green beans, sweet potato, casserole, rice, and Marie made a cake, desserts.
Tea and water.
Yeah, tea.
So you get fed today.
Yes. And we're looking for more when we come.
And who's singing tonight?
Faith Banner and Tony Carlton are singing today.
Awesome.
Yes. So you'll get a blessing.
Yeah.
Yes, and we have one of our pastors that lives out in the community where we grew up, Reverend Robert Hayes. He is going to say maybe I told him 1 or 2 words. So he'll have a little message or tell his story or something today.
Great.
So we.
Well, what would you tell? What would either of y'all tell a church that was thinking about starting a dinner church?
I would tell them it's the best thing that they could do. You know, it brings people together. more, you know, rather than just having 11 o'clock service, you know.
Those that don't attend the
That
morning
don't-
service.
Right, they don't attend morning service. This is a perfect place to come in the afternoon and worship. Yes,
And if you're a little hungry,
you can get
get
fed.
fed. Not
So
only physical, but spiritually.
That's right. That's right.
Anything else you want to say about the dinner church?
I love the way the family's working together. That my nieces and nephews, well, I'll say my nephews, but my nieces and my daughter, our children are here, and some of them don't even attend church, but they come
That's
and help.
right.
Just because it's a family church.
Reverend Don contacted them, and they did not say no. They just took a part and just came in and started working. And it's a wonderful thing because, like Auntie said, they weren't going to church. Some of them were, but it wasn't regular. But they look forward to coming as well. So we're just happy to have them back in the church and working too.
That's awesome.
Yes. And then
I followed the food as George pushed it over to the sanctuary in the metal cart.
Get that door for me. Thank you. Told you, I'm in the background.
That's right.
clean up, man.
Hey, you know how that sign say, we'll work for food? I hold my sign up, we'll work for food.
As we walked into the sanctuary, it looked like most country churches I had been in. The white painted walls, the simple blue stained glass windows, a cross and a painting of Jesus hanging in the front. That shade of red that so many church carpets are. But one thing was very different. The pews had been unscrewed and pushed to the back of the sanctuary. In their place sat round tables, covered with white tablecloths, chairs circled around. On the outside edge of the room was a buffet line with an abundant feast. At the tables sat people of all ages, some wearing their Sunday best and some wearing blue jeans. The sound of laughter and conversation filled the air. A youth walked up to George to tell him some good
All
news.
right. Staying out of trouble?
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I want to hear.
I made all 8 honor roll last year. I had a B and a C and I put it into an 8.
Our friend Margaret opened the service, and Reverend Meyer Don opened with a word of prayer.
Our bill, and then Margaret will direct us and what to do. So let us pray. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for this time of fellowship together.
Yes, sir.
As we come, Lord, to a fellowship and to hear your word, we pray, Lord, that the word that will be spoken and in fellowship today will merge into our spirit man, and that we will grow in grace, in love of God, and in fellowship with our neighbors. Now bless this food as we partake of it, and may it nourish our body. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
At this time, we will begin serving, so if you want to start as we do, on the back and come around on the back. So, Luke, you want to lead the line?
I'm telling you, my job is a real sacrifice sometimes. I went through the line and received a generous portion of chicken pie. Literally the best green beans I've ever had in my life. Some sweet potatoes and a delicious piece of lemon cake. Folks went through the line and sat around the table eating, catching up. After a while, the guest speaker, Reverend Hayes, from a nearby congregation, was invited to the front to share a testimony.
Thank God for it. I want to give honor to God first of all, and to pastors, first lady, to all of God's children. I thank you for being here today. Amen. I honor him, and I have given him my life. God's favor is on my life today, and I'm glad about that. There is no other lifestyle I want. I gave up the old one to get this. And the Bible said, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. The old things are passed away. And behold, all things are become new. Now, from my early childhood, I'll give a quick testimony. I'm from Macon, North Carolina. And as a young boy growing up, we didn't have much. We was poor. Can I get a witness? Somebody else?
As Reverend Hayes wrapped up, Reverend Meyer Don, the pastor of New Covenant, stood up.
Can we give the Lord some praise in the house? The gospel we share at Dinner Church is what God has done. It's the Spirit of Jesus.
Jesus.
If Jesus can do it for Reverend Ye, now
Yes, he did it.
he can do it for you.
Yes, he can.
If he can do it for me,
Yes, sir.
he can do it for you no matter what.
Yes, sir.
That's the story we come to share today. That's the good news. Let's give God some praise here today. Jesus, he touches his eyes and healed this man. This is the Jesus that I want to invite you to. He is the one that when nobody wants to give you a chance, he will give you a chance.
Yes, he will.
He is the one that identifies with those that are sitting on the sidewalk. He identifies with them, and he will identify with you today.
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe it?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe it?
Yeah.
Each dinner church is different when it comes to music. New Covenant's music was inspired and passionate. As the service wrapped up, Pastor Don and I snuck back over to the kitchen. As we walked in, we ran into some of his friends and family who were visiting from Charlotte, who belong to the same Liberian tribe that Reverend Don belongs to.
Pastor? Yes. I want to depend on the Miss Robert DJ.
Yeah, I put the bus on.
Okay, he says,
Okay. Let's see what they had there.
That's fine, that's fine, yeah.
We just had to come.
All right. At least I saw the play, but the church over there, that's...
I asked him how the New Covenant Dinner Church got started and how it was going.
Well, the location was chosen because we had two churches that had merged to form New Covenant. The old Smith Memorial is on the other side of town, which is near the downtown area. And then the old Harper's Chapel, which was on the other side of town. And when I came to look in this area, this is where I felt that dinner church was most needed. So I started to hold meeting here and walk the street here and start talking with residents in the area. And that's how they began to be interested about dinner church. So that's how we started it on this side. So far it's going great. Look, as you can see, you saw it in the church. They look forward to when we have in dinner church. I mean, this has become a celebration for them. Yes, so we enjoyed it. They come, they eat, and the people give testimony, personal testimony. Then I get up and say the gospel story. I would encourage all the United Methodist churches that are thinking about doing dinner church, don't hesitate, go ahead and do it. That's a way of getting people to build relationship. And relationship is the only way we can turn the church to where it started from, Connectional Church. The New Testament church in the book of Acts, they went from home to home and they ate bread, they broke bread together and ate meal together, and that's how the church grew. And we need to go back to that model. Yes.
Something spiritual happens when we sit down and eat together with a wide range of people from our community. The labels we've been given melt away as we ask our neighbor to pass the beans. In the Gospels, we see that at Jesus' dinner parties, outcasts became guests of honor. The rise of dinner churches in our conference and throughout the world is a testament that an essential aspect of God's plan for restoring creation will be discovered around a dinner table. When we gather with our neighbors and with Christ around a meal, we see a glimpse of the wedding feast of the coming kingdom that we wait for so expectantly. Reverend Don experienced this kind of transformational meal when he lived in Liberia.
With the two tribes from Africa that actually started this war is the Mano tribe and the Kran tribe. They could never see each other. And we fought this war for 14 years. And when the war was over, the reconciliation was to prepare the meal. And when the meal was prepared, we had representatives from the two tribes. They had to come together. And when we share meal together, it is a peace meal. You cannot eat with someone and hold something against that person. And so when we did that, that was the reconciliation meal for us, and that's what brought the war to an end. And when the dinner church was learned, I said, you know what, this is exactly what the dinner church is all about. So it resonated with me.
Thank you for listening to Means of Grace, a podcast produced by the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church. We hope you've enjoyed listening to these podcasts and use them as a way to stay connected to our community. Remember to subscribe to Means of Grace for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us an honest rating and a review. It helps others find this podcast. Follow the WNCC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WNCCUMC. That's WNCCUMC. Means of Grace is produced by the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church and Gojo Studios.